Hello, everyone. Love and blessings, and thank you for joining me today. So today I've got a bit of a heavy subject. I feel compelled to do this because I'd seen something over the weekend that I watched, and it was a little bit concerning because it involves my country and stuff like that. There's a lot of unrest in my country at the moment because of what's unfolding here in Australia. Um, and also with other countries around the world that are also being undergoing the same kind of stuff that's just starting to come into fruition here in Australia. And I do believe a lot of it has to do with end time events and also this war that's been going since biblical times. Um, Once you lift your veil off your eyes and see the world through a different lens and not through the world of social media and media and what they just want you to know. But when you start looking at the bigger picture and seeing the world around you from a different perspective and through different eyes, you really start to see the end times unfolding as they are and prophecy coming true. So that's what I'm going to touch upon today, prophecy and persecution. So it is a bit of a heavy subject, but you know what? I hope it just open your eyes a bit to the world around you and some food for thought behind it too. As I said in one of my other videos, I actually started doing a massive study into the book of Revelation and Daniel. The two go together. And I actually had to stop studying because I started seeing the world around me and it frightened me a little bit. So I actually stopped. So what I'm going to start with, I guess, is the biblical eras of persecution. No, I won't start with the biblical eras. I'll start with today. So today in the world, there are approximately 388 million Christians globally being persecuted because of their faith, for being Christian. The most extreme countries where this persecution is taking place is in North Korea, Somalia, Afghanistan, Africa, especially in Nigeria, and India. There's a massive rise in religious nationalism there. So I've been watching a lot of persecution the last year and what's been happening in these countries, and it is absolutely heartbreaking and devastating and just horrific what's been unfolding in these countries and these poor people. See, they won't tell you any of this on the media. They don't want you to know. So, yeah. So, yes. So 1 in 7 Christians globally face persecution through mob violence, forced conversions, restrictions on Christian communities. Now, there's a great web page. It's called Open Doors, and these notes were actually taken from their watch list of 2026 and what's been happening globally with Christians being persecuted. So the perpetrators of this persecution towards Christians are primarily authoritarian governments, extreme militant groups, religious nationalists who target believers through violence, restrictive laws, and social marginalism. And the primary source of these persecutors fall into these categories. Islamic oppression in countries across the Middle East and Africa, dictator and communist regimes, sorry, I can't even read my own writing. So dictator and communist regimes, for example, North Korea, China, and Cuba. Religious nationalism, especially in India. And there's also systemic state crackdowns as well when they fall apart and, yeah, they have no control over them. So that's quite alarming that that's what's happening in the world today. And, the media and all these other social outlets don't tell you anything about it until you go digging around for yourself online and see it. So yeah, so the reason why I bring this up and to your attention is because, as I've said before, this persecution that's going on today has been going on since biblical times and even well before. So I'll touch upon the biblical eras. So in the Old Testament, the prophets and the early Israelites were persecuted. The Israelites were forced into labor as slaves and oppression in Egypt under the pharaohs. The prophets were persecuted because of their warnings and the prophets given to them by God. In the New Testament, the Jewish authorities, especially following the birth of Christianity, so the apostles for sharing the truth in Christ and spreading the message of Jesus Christ and how to be saved and come to Christ and all of it. The Roman authorities, the Christians were persecuted for refusing to worship the Roman emperor and the state gods in that era. And through the Middle Ages as well, there was a lot of heavy persecution still going on in the Middle Ages because of Christianity and just trying to share the message of Jesus Christ and everything that's written in the Bible and the truth. So in the Middle Ages, it was heavily driven by the Catholic Church, resulting in massacres, expulsion, forced conversions of non-Christians. People like Martin Luther, John Wycliffe, and John Huss, big forerunners of sharing the truth of the Bible and stuff like that. So they were martyrs for what they did and continue to share the gospel and truth of Jesus Christ and the Bible. So that's a little bit about persecution and the history of it. And as I showed you the other day, this book is fantastic, The History of Christianity. It breaks down so much about history of it. Another good one, as I touched upon in some of my other videos as well, is The Great Controversy by Ellen White. Now, this book has so much history, and not only history, but where we are heading now within the world. And it's all unfolding as per what's written in the prophecy of Daniel and the book of Revelations, 2 prophecies, and it's all happening in today's world. I just hope that the veil of your own eyes and lens can be lifted to see it. So I'm going to start with from the Bible, taken from Matthew chapter 24. So I'm just going to read you, it's called Destruction of the Temple and the Signs of the End Times, which is what we are living in now. So in the Bible, Matthew chapter 24. Okay, so Jesus was sitting in the Mount of Olives. The disciples came to him privately and said, "Tell us, when is this going to happen?" Oh, sorry, I'll start at the beginning. How about that? That could be good. Okay, so Jesus left the temple and was walking away when his disciples come up to him to cast his attention to its buildings. "Do you see all these things?" he asked. Now they're in the temple of Jerusalem here. "Truly I tell you, not one stone here will be left on another. Every one will be thrown down." Now, if you look at the history of Jerusalem and stuff like that, that's actually happened. There's stones there that actually fell on the wall, fell down and stuff like that. So Jesus foretold it, and it's actually happened. As Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples come to him privately. "Tell us," they said, "when will these things happen? And what will be the sign of your coming and the end of age?" End times. the world today. Jesus answered, "Watch out that no one deceives you. Many will come in my name claiming I am the Messiah, and will deceive many. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars. But see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places." Now, we just had 2 earthquakes, one last week and one yesterday, Monday. So that's 2 in 2 weeks, and they're everywhere. They're happening all the time, so frequently. All these things are the beginnings of birth pains, so the start. Then you will be handed over to be persecuted and put to death, and you will be hated by all nations because of me. Hated because you're a Christian, as I've just outlined the Christianity today and what's happening with the persecutions. At the time, many will turn away from their faith and will betray and hate each other, and many false prophets will appear and deceive many people. Because of the increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. Now, as I said, all these people in the Middle Ages, they were persecuted because they stood firm in their faith and their findings of reading the Bible and continuing to share the truth of Jesus Christ, the Bible. So they were hunted and persecuted, as said here by Jesus Christ, before he was even executed. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. So that's what's happening at the moment. There's so much preaching in the world going on for Christianity and people returning to Christ to be saved. As I said in one of my other videos the other day, in George Street in Sydney, 30 years ago, when I lived there was no one on a Friday or Saturday night preaching Christianity and Christ coming and the truth. You go down to George Street now in Sydney, every Friday, Saturday night, there's preaching going on for people to come back to Christ and Christianity. So it says here, in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, the kingdom will be preached. So again, then the end will come. So it is happening. We are living in it. And when you see standing in the holy place the abomination that causes desolation spoken of through the prophet Daniel, let the reader understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let no one on the house steps go down or take anything out of the house. Let no one in the field go back to get their cloak. How dreadful it will be in those days for pregnant women and nursing mothers. Pray that your fight will not take place in winter or on the Sabbath, for there will be great distress, unequaled from the beginning of the world until now, and never to be equaled again. So basically, when Jesus Christ comes again, it's going to be instantaneous, and you won't have time to go and even grab anything. So if those days had not been cut short, no one would survive, but that for the sake of the elect, those days will be shortened. At that time, if anyone says to you, look, here is the Messiah, or here he is, do not believe, for false messiahs and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. See, I have told you ahead of time. So if anyone tells you, there he is out in the wilderness, do not go. Here he is in the inner rooms, do not believe. For as lightning that comes from the east is visible even in the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. Wherever there is a carcass, the vultures will gather. Immediately after the distress of those days, The sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light, and the stars will fall from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken. There will appear the sign, the Son of Man in heaven, and then all the people on earth will mourn when they see the Son of Man coming on the clouds from heaven with power and great glory. And he will send his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of the heavens to the other. Now learn this lesson from the fig trees. As soon as its twigs get tender and its leaves come out, you know that summer is near. Even so, when you see all these things, you know that it is near, right at the door. Truly I tell you, this generation will certainly not pass away until all these things have happened. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. Now it goes on to say, day and hour unknown. But about the day and hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son of Man, but only the Father. And it is in the days of Noah, so it will be the coming of the Son of Man. For in the days before the flood, people were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, up to the day of Noah entered the ark, and they knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came and took them all away. That is how it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. 2 men will be in the field. One will be taken, the other one left. 2 women will be grinding with the handmill. One will be taken, the other left. Therefore, keep watch before, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come. But understand this, if the owner of the house had known at what time of night the thief was coming, he would have kept watch and would not have let his house be broken into. So you must also be ready, because the Son of Man will come at an hour when you do not expect him. Who then is the faithful and wise servant, whom the master has put in charge of his servant in his household to give them their food at the proper time? It will be good for the servant whose master finds him doing so when he returns. Truly I tell you, he will put him in charge of his own possession. But suppose that servant is wicked and says to him, my master is staying away a long time, and then he begins to beat his fellow servants and to eat and drink with drunkards. The master of the servant will come on the day when he does not expect him, and at an hour he is not aware of. He will cut him into pieces and assign him a place with the hypocrites, where there will be weeping and gnashing of the teeth. Sounds pretty gruesome, doesn't it? So another thing here that I want to touch upon is, that's not it, in Timothy 2, chapter 3. It goes on to say, but mark this, there will be terrible times in the last days. People will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not lovers of the good, treacherous, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying its power. Have nothing to do with such people. They are the kind whom their way into homes and gain control over gullible women who are loaded down with sin and are swayed by all kinds of evil desires, always learning but never able to come to the knowledge of truth. Just as Jannes and Jambres opposed Moses, so also the teachers opposed the truth. There are men of depraved minds who, as far as faith is concerned, are rejected. But they will not get very far because, as in the case of those men, their folly will be cleared to everyone. So it's quite funny that terrible times in the last days will people, how he goes on and basically describes society as we know it throughout the world. People become lovers themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to parents, ungrateful, unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, not lovers of good, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. Don't know about you, but that sounds like a lot of society throughout the world at the moment. So, as prophesied and written in the Bible and spoken by God himself, that's what's happening in the world today. It's been going on for many generations, but it is so prominently in our face today, especially when you start looking into it and seeing it for yourself, especially around what I told you with the persecutions that are taking place. It's very concerning. And the reason why I touch upon these persecutions and how concerning it is because in this study I did do, the messenger of Revelation and message of Daniel. So in the prophecy, this is what it says about Islam. Now, I don't want to come across that I'm a person of hatred to other religions and stuff like that. I've said many times before, I don't treat anyone different because of their religious beliefs. But when I see in the world as we know it today, the extremism that's unfolding with Islam, and it's more prominent and more within our face throughout the world, it's quite concerning and alarming. That's my point, the extremism of Islam. I know many Muslims, and I've met some beautiful Islamic Muslims, and are so true to their faith and following, and such beautiful people. But on the other hand as well, I have come across some very awful Muslims who are quite extreme. And with my background in my job that I did have before being medically retired, I have come across some very hostile, aggressive Muslims, and they're very stout in their religious beliefs in Islam, to the point where they are extremists. And that was in my working environment. So I see the dangers of both sides of the pendulum with this. I see the beautiful people who are Muslim and such beautiful people and a genuine, loving, kind people. I've also experienced the bad side of Muslims and their extremist beliefs and how they are. They're aggressive, they're rude, they're challenging. And that's how I know that there's a lot of hostility there between the West and the East and different religious beliefs and stuff. So as I said, there is a lot of this happening in the world at the moment. It's in my country here in Australia, and there is massive social unrest at the moment here in Australia. And when I see other places like Europe and the UK and see where they're at, and it is very frightening and very concerning. So yeah, it kind of borders on a political tone as well, which is not what I'm pushing here. I'm pushing people to open their eyes to the truth of the gospel and the truth in Jesus' words and his prophecies that have been told, and sharing the truth of that we are currently living in the end times. And when you take your eyes, the veil off your eyes, and see the world around you from the biblical eyes, through the eyes of Christ, you'll see it for yourself. And that's what I'm really focusing on here. So yeah, I just wanted to touch upon that so as not to offend anyone or upset anyone, because it is such a sensitive subject, religion and this political climate that we're living in, political climate we're living in throughout the world. So Islam in prophecy. Now it says here When you start reading into the prophecy of Daniel and Revelation, and you study it for yourself and start to understand all the symbology that's behind it all. Okay, so I just want to, where do I start? Okay, so there's a section in the book of Revelation where, there's 7 churches, 7 bowls, 7 trumpets, and all of that. They all mean different things, and they all mean different things politically, especially like all the different kingdoms and nations will rise against each other and stuff like that. And that's what's been happening more and more today, as we know. So the part of Islam I want to touch upon here is in prophecy. So it says here in this book, message of Revelation, everyone is interested in the part Islam is playing in our world today. By the way, this book was written in 1985, so 30 years ago. So here it says, everyone is interested in the part Islam is playing in our world today. As a matter of fact, Islam has frequently played a decisive role in world affairs during the past 1300 years, and it's still doing it today. And it's evident. You just have to look at politics and the social climate throughout the world. Islam certainly deserves a place in Bible prophecy. Now, more often than not, what Muslims have done in politics and warfare has been rooted in what they believe. At a glance, Islamic beliefs will help us understand better their role in biblical prophecy. What Muslims believe. Islam, the religion of followers of Muhammad, originated around 612 AD when Muhammad began to believe that God was giving him visions. Muhammad at that time was a merchant living in Mecca, an Arabian city. Anyway, so I won't read it at all, but I'll just go on to say here. Muhammad laid down numerous rules for his followers. After his death, these rules were collected into the book called the Quran, the Islamic Bible. Quran means a book of readings to be recited in memory, by memory. Islam means fully surrendered to the will of Allah as taught in the Quran. A Muslim is a person who is thus surrendered. The Quran contains many prophecies about end time. On the last day, which is spoken of as likely to come very soon, the Quran says that God will rise the dead and summon everyone to final judgment. At the judgment, Allah will consign the wicked to hell to drink blood and boiling water and burn in the agony forever. But Allah will be very compassionate to the righteous. He will invite them all into heaven to dine at sumptuous banquets with gazelle-eyed virgins. The Quran speaks unquestionably in favor of holy war or jihad. It says that although all believers will find pleasure in heaven, those believers who risk their lives in holy war will find far richer pleasures. Allah says the Quran has promised all a good reward, but far richer is the recompensate for those who fight for him. Allah loves those who fight for his cause. He will lodge you in pleasant mansions in the Garden of Eden. That is the supreme triumph. Muhammad definitely required holy war. It conquered new territory and provided vast new riches to plunder. But we would be wrong to assume he forced Jews and Christians to choose between Allah and the sword. Muhammad admired Jews and Christians as worshippers like himself of Allah, the true God of Abraham and Jesus. Because they believed in the Old Testament, he respected them as people of the book. Modern Arab hostility to the Jews stems from Nazi anti-Semitism and Israel Israel militarization, and stands in strong contrast to Islamic tradition. Islamic expansion. Islam is a missionary religion intent on winning converts. Muhammad's first converts were his first wife. Then I'll go on. After Muhammad's death, the successor, he rallied the Arabs and commenced an aggressive agenda of military expansion. We have seen that wherever the early Muslim armies were successful, Christianity was greatly reduced in strength or wiped out. The so-called Arab nations of the Middle East and North African countries were Christian nations until the Muslims arrived. Everyone knows that they aren't Christian nations today. Now, this book was written 30 years ago, and that's what the message of Revelation and Daniel is about. The jihad war. So it's very alarming, isn't it, when you read that and see the world today, know that it's been prophesied in the Bible thousands of years ago. It is very concerning. So that's why I had to stop my study into this particular aspect of the Bible, because it really alarmed me. I started seeing it through spiritual eyes. I started seeing my country and the world as we know it. So this, as I've been saying in a few other of my videos, this war that's going on has been going on for many, many thousands of years. And it's rising in other countries throughout the world. So that's what the concerning thing for me is, the world today. And as I said in one of my videos, I think it was my last video, who is going to save these poor Christians for their faith? So I'm going to leave it there, because it is very heavy subject, and I do hope you will take something from this and understand the message that is Bible inspired, and it's in no way, shape or form a political or it's not a political message. It's just to open your eyes up to prophecy, especially the book of Daniel and book of Revelation. So yes, there is truth in this Bible, as I have said. So many people have been persecuted throughout the eras just for wanting to share the truth, just like I'm doing myself, because this is a new walk for me and my life in God. So yes, that's what this channel is about, sharing my testimony, how God saved me, and sharing the truth of the Bible and his words. So please continue to share my channel and message to anyone you think may need it, because that's what it's for, to bring people back to God and save them for when the end times do come, so we can be rescued and taken to heaven. And please pray for all these poor persecuted Christians throughout the world. It's not on media, and it's very sad that, especially here in Australia, what's Australia doing for these poor persecuted people? We're doing nothing, because probably a lot of Australians don't even know that this is happening. So I hope your country, wherever you are, is aware of this and helping these poor Christian people throughout the world. These people are suffering just like the people of past eras were, and in biblical times were. So yeah, it is a heavy subject that I've touched upon today. I hope it has made sense. I hope it's been clear, and that you too can start looking at the world differently through godly eyes. And yeah, God bless. Enjoy your afternoon, and may God shine his face upon you. Take care.